You're watching Rogers TV, London.
Welcome to this week's episode of LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV London. I am your host, Bronagh Morgan, and this is the show where we oftentimes get to talk to some really passionate, engaged, enthusiastic, and fascinating public servants, people who have taken the initiative to become involved in politics at so many different levels. And we've had a lot of great guests, even just in the last few episodes. We've been talking to some people who really, have a passion for politics, got into it because they wanted to serve their communities, and are, I guess, making a great difference in people's lives. And that's, what it's all about, really. So today, fortunate again to have as our guest, Brandon Doxtator. So Brandon is a member of Oneida Council. And how many terms have you been a councillor?
This is my second term.
Second term.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here.
Mm-hmm.
I know our viewers would love to hear about what's going on with Oneida Council, and maybe you can even just walk us through what an election is like with Oneida.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me here. We're so honored to be here to talk with you about this. I've been so excited and thinking about it. Yeah, being on a First Nations band council, it's a really interesting process. It gives you a lot of opportunity to work with your community directly and really guide the processes and make change and be a part of that change in your community. There's so many portfolios that council has that ranges from education to health to community safety, infrastructure, which is one of the ones I'm taking on, economic development, right? So there's so many huge portfolios, and it has a direct impact on the lives of our community members. When community members are in crisis, there's elected councillors who have phones that they'll call them and speak with them directly, right? And our chief, he's always such an available person to assist with people. So it's really meaningful, and it comes with its hardships, like any kind of role. Sometimes you feel like we're talking about the same thing and the same issues over and over and over again. But I'm really excited for the opportunities, and the really making a difference in our community and really building a strong nation with our community members is really important.
Fantastic. Yeah. So what was it that attracted you to becoming, putting your, I guess, name in, or putting your name forward to become a councillor? What was it about that kind of, I guess, role in serving your community that was attractive for you?
Yeah, I always think about that, and it goes back even to when I was young. There was the Green Lane landfill. The city of Toronto had just purchased that landfill adjacent to our community, and there had been no engagement with our community or any knowledge of it happening without our public consultation. I remember our chief at the time, he found out about it by reading it in the newspaper the next day. So that's the kind of engagement that they had with our community. And I didn't know that at that time, and had written a letter to our chief and council saying, like, how could you allow this landfill to happen so close to our community, yada, 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 right? And that was the first spark of kind of political engagement, I guess, at a young age. And I was actually elected a co-prime minister in high school. So, like part of our student body and organizing that. So so it's always been a part of who I am to work with people, to hear their voices and try and push for change. I remember my election campaign for grade 12 was better bathrooms. Yeah, you know, because our bathrooms were deplorable. And so
this is funny. I ran for politics when I was in high school as well, and mine was go with bro.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Cool.
But then the signs that were by the bathroom were flow with bro. I don't know. It's really cool. But anyway, we were talking about bathrooms. So
yeah, there we go. Right. So it's an issue that's been for years.
Right.
And so that's what like really started me into kind of getting what was happening. After I finished university, I was elected when I was 21 on my first term.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so after I finished university, I came back and worked with our youth center. And I had about 30 youth coming out every day for programming, and just really saw the huge discrepancy, you know, and the huge needs in those youth, and they just like, I was like a mother hen for them, you know, helping them out with everything. And
were you one of the younger counselors then?
Yeah, so there was three youth elected that term, and so I was 21. My cousin Kathleen was 22 elected, and our other counselor was 26.
Wow,
so our community invested in youth a lot at that time.
I love that.
Yeah, and so I liked seeing that, all that need and all that the change that needed to be happen. You know, we pushed for that at the council table, pushing for youth voices and ensuring that that's part of the strategy, you know, going forward, right? Like there had always been a disconnect, and a lot of the youth that are in our community, it's like there's these plans where you engage with the youth, but then nothing happens, right? And that's what we had been trying to push for, right, is that actual change. And so being on the other side and seeing from the elected and from how the administration works, like, you know, just seeing that with those processes, I think it was a really important time to kind of figure all that out, right? Like I remember me and Kathleen, we had a list of acronyms because we were just trying to follow up, like what's COO, what's AIAI, what's AFNGT.
Oh my gosh, so many acronyms.
Right, MER, and you know what I mean? Like it's just like so it was like a whole nother term of studying of you know,
it's like a whole other language,
right?
The language of government.
Yeah. So you know, and we got into those processes. I decided not to run after that term and focus more on working and getting involved in that. So I worked for my community as our environment coordinator and consultation coordinator, and just kind of building that internal capacity in the environment department. And even that is a whole struggle, because like my background when I went to university was for archaeology.
And you went to Trent?
To Trent,
right? Yes, we both went to Trent.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So loved it there, right? And archaeology, history was more my background.
Right.
And going into the environment sector was a whole nother new thing, right? But loved the work, loved doing all that. And this previous term, when the elections were coming up, I didn't think I was going to run. I didn't really think I was going to run, but my name was put up, and I decided to let it stand.
So somebody else puts your name forward.
Right. So the process is they have a nomination day, and so you can go in from that morning to that afternoon, and you need a first, what would you call that? Like a nominator,
okay,
and then a seconder. And so they put your name up, and then you're on the list. And then there you have about 5-6 days where you can rescind your nomination. If not, then you're put on the list.
Right.
And we actually had a protest, peaceful protest or passive protest.
Okay.
Me and my friend, because we were talking about this custom election code, had been sitting in kind of just on a back shelf for years, not being moved in terms of the process. And so because of how the Indian Act band council election code works, you can nominate anybody for chief. Anybody.
Okay.
As long as you have a nominator and a seconder, they don't have to be from the community.
Get out of here.
Yeah, and so we nominated a few people who weren't in our community. One of them being Eugene Levy. Catherine O'Hara was the other one. And there was another one, I can't remember who it was. Oprah was the other one. Oprah. We nominated them for chief. And you can imagine Indigenous Service Canada running around trying to find Oprah's number, trying to get her to resend this nomination. They weren't too pleased with us, but
the point being that you wanted to see this code change.
Yes.
And that is
Right.
an effective way of making the point.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and so so the custom election code has to be put through community in a referendum, basically. So I got we got brought in, and we were talking with like the leadership at Chief Council, because I wasn't elected at that point, right? Just nominated, and they're like, "This is what we're working on, and we're trying to get it through." Like, it's like, well, we put the fire to the flame to make change, and so so I kept my name on, got elected in, and they're like, well, since you caused all this trouble, you're on the committee.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Right,
we do have to take a little break, Brandon, but I want to hear more about what you've been working on since you've come back to council after this. So please stay with us. We'll have more with Brandon Doxtator after this.
This program is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Carbon monoxide is a deadly gas you can't see, smell, or taste.
Homes with fuel-burning appliances and/or attached garages must have working CO alarms installed outside all sleeping areas.
Don't let the silent killer get you. Install working CO alarms today.
I'm Mike Jack. I've broken multiple world records for eating some of the world's hottest peppers. Now, I'm challenging London restaurants to make some of the world's hottest food. Watch Jack Up the Heat Mondays at 5:30.
Welcome to the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Stalo people. The Stalo are people of the river. I'm so thankful for the courage and resiliency of our ancestors who lived on this land since time immemorial. Each of us have gifts from the Creator, and our Creator has a plan and purpose to be fulfilled in our territory. As we embrace our traditional teachings, we can lead the next generation into the fullness of what our Creator designed. Our shared history reveals a broken relationship. But as all Canadians commit to hear truth, acknowledge injustice, we can learn to walk in our traditional way, LdnOnt, with a good heart and a good mind. Then all of our lives will be enriched. Kwasai.
You're watching Rogers TV, London.
Welcome back to LdnOnt TV here on Rogers. I am your host, Bronagh. I've been talking to Oneida Councillor Brandon Doxtator about, I guess, an interesting way to get re-elected to council, trying to make a point and trying to bring about some change. And it sounds like you have been able to affect that change.
Yeah. We're building upon the work that's been done with the custom election. They started this document in 2002, 2003. And So a lot of work has been put into it already. And so we just wanted to get it to the finish line. Right. And so it's been reviewed by our chief and council, and now it goes to the community for review and suggestions, edits, and then we'll have a referendum vote on that. And there's a clear process of how that happens, right? There's like a 90-day comment period, and then we have the vote, and it's 10% of the community, I believe, that has, if they vote, then it moves through.
Awesome.
So we're really excited for that, and to finally present that, because that allows us to get a portion of our community out of the Indian Act, right? And move towards self-determination.
Fantastic.
And self-governance. And this is how our community wants to run itself, right?
Fantastic.
So part of that is we currently have 12 councillors and a chief.
Yes.
And this process, we would put that down to 6 councillors and a chief. And we're on a 2-year term, and that's really destabilizing, because then you just get elected and then you're going, and then you got to run for election again, and it's like sometimes you're not carrying on the work, or it's this person, and now you got to get all this information, right? So we're looking at either a 3 or 4-year term. So that's gonna go to the community for whether it's a 3 or whether it's a 4-year term. Right. And also, but the chiefs will be set at 4-year.
Gotcha.
And then, just clarifying those processes and making it Oneida. You know? So that's what we're really excited about.
Well, congratulations on just the progress you've been able to make already. Mm-hmm. Now, tell me, the elections were last June, I think you said. Yeah. So since last June, what have been some of the other issues that have been, obviously we've heard about water being a huge issue that you've had to tackle, and how are things going? Yeah,
so our community declared a emergency on our water. I believe that was December 15th. And that was a very tumultuous time in our community. It had never happened in that regard. So the aquifer waters were at a critical low level, and we may not have been able to provide service to our community. Even just turning on the taps, there would be no water. So, due to low precipitation, climate change, and just the high usage of water in the community, because we have both a quality and a quantity issue.
Right.
And so we are on boil water advisory, long-term one, but also we're dependent on groundwater to service our community. And so that aquifer sometimes can run low. And so thankfully, when we declared the emergency, we received so much outpouring of help from our local community members, from our First Nations, from the City of London, just folks who were really concerned, what can we do, and our community center was bulging with water, just so we could deliver it, right?
Okay.
And so, at that time, I heard from a lot of community members who, because how it was indicated is you turn on the tap and brown water was coming out.
My goodness.
And so that's a sign of high, it's a chemical imbalance.
Yes.
And so community members are taking a shower and it's just all brown, and it's like this is one of my great aunties telling me this story, and so it's how do we and they're concerned. One of my other aunties, her faucet broke. Right. And so she's like, I drained all the water because I had a leaky tap for 2 weeks, and it's just a lot of guilt for just washing your clothes, when they needed to. So heard a lot of those stories from our community members, and trying to let them know, we're working on this issue. And at that point, we had been working with Indigenous Service Canada on a agreement for our community.
All right.
And there was 3 major points. The first was that we needed to secure a long-term water solution.
Absolutely.
Right? So a 5-year agreement isn't going to cut it.
Right.
We needed we were saying a 20-year agreement.
Okay.
And so this would be water coming from Lake Huron piped into the community. We have small 4-inch, 6-inch pipes. What they were bringing in, it was a 12-inch pipe. So we needed to upgrade all our infrastructure piping. And then the other piece was the fire flow. And we had a tragic fire in our community in 2016 where we lost a father and 4 children.
Oh my goodness.
And in First Nations communities, you're 10 times more likely to die from a fire than outside of an Indigenous community, if you're a non-Indigenous person. And so and we only have 6 fire hydrants in our community, a community that services 2,500 people.
And so this is all a part of that agreement that you're working on with the federal government.
Right. And so that fire flow piece was absolutely critical.
Absolutely.
And for the protection of our community. And we were continually going back and forth with Indigenous Service Canada to push and make sure that was important, because they originally weren't going to fund the fire flow.
Okay.
And we said no deal.
Right.
No deal. And they would come back and with this and that, and it's like, no, that's not. It has to continue with the fire flow.
Right.
And so, with the emergency, it brought them back to the table.
Okay.
With everything we needed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, mission accomplished, or?
Mission accomplished. We've signed the agreement, and we're moving forward. I don't know if that's a breaking story, but
wow.
we signed the agreement last week with Indigenous Service Canada, and they're moving forward with funding the project. So it's a $54 million project, and so
fantastic.
So the next steps is really to receive the funding.
Right.
We need to hire a project manager.
Of course. Yeah.
And then it's 3 to 6 months of detailed design, and then construction is 18 months.
Wow.
So we're looking at a 24-month timetable.
But at least you're moving forward.
Right.
Fantastic. And something that, one of the younger councillors that has ever, I guess, maybe been on council here, has been passionately working on, and here you are. So young people like you that maybe are watching or considering maybe getting involved in politics, whether it's Oneida, municipal politics in London, another level of government, what kind of words would you say?
Yeah, no, I encourage everyone to get involved. There is change that can be made, even at the smallest level. Like, I started as a youth council member back when I was 15, 16 years old, and it really is that if you have that momentum for change, you can make a difference.
Fantastic. Oh, I'm just thrilled that you were able to spend this time with us today. We do have to take another break, but we are going to be talking to a young person from your community after the break. So please stay with us for more LdnOnt TV.
This program is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Being stuck in your home during this pandemic also means you have a home. Waiting in line for groceries means you have money for groceries. The isolation, being broke and totally scared about what's next. I was feeling that before this crisis. People say we're in this together, but me? I've got no one.
Youth who have aged out of the child welfare system are in danger of falling further through the cracks because of today's crisis. They need your support. Please give today at helpyouthnow.ca.
Night's action on Rogers TV.
Jeff from Chillin' and Grillin' with Jeff. We're back for season 3. We've had the opportunity to see some great backyards and have some great barbecue. Join us, Chillin' and Grillin' with Jeff.
You're watching Rogers TV, London.
Welcome back to LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV. I'm your host, Bronagh. I've been having a great conversation with Brandon, and he's also, we've been joined now with Brandon's cousin, Shoni, so welcome to the show. I know, Brandon, you just wanted to finish off on one of the points about water, and then I'd love to hear from Shoni as well about, you know, how it feels to be a young person potentially getting involved in politics or at least public service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. So I just wanted to finish off by saying, you know, sending out a huge "Y'Won't Go" to all of our staff, our water guys, the Public Works Administration team. They worked tirelessly over the water emergency to get us to where we needed to be, and to all the leadership who has pushed through on both the custom election code and for our clean water, right? It's just amazing to see the resiliency and advocacy amongst our members in our nation.
Fantastic.
So, huge "Y'Won't Go" to them. And then also just, you know, with our youth, right? You know, Shoni will talk about it, but, you know, she's such an amazing youth that I've gotten to know over the past few years, working with her on our home garden project.
So tell us about the garden project. This sounds fascinating.
Okay, so when I was in 2020, I was given a message saying that if you wanted to work in a garden, we're doing a little, what would you call it?
Home and community garden project.
Yeah, so we were doing that, and so I headed over, started doing my little garden thing. It was me and my cousins, and we would just go there every other day. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We would help out the elders in the community, and we would just like deliver soil, seeds, packages, and stuff like that. And there was a lot of hot days. Yeah, I'll tell you that.
What kind of plants were you growing?
There were.
Everything. Tomatoes, watermelon, squash, beans.
Right.
Whatever you need.
So were you doing any gardening before that? Did you do a lot of learning about?
I did not garden. But that definitely taught me a lot over the quarantine days that I definitely think I'll need when I'm older.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Was there anything about the project that was, I guess, your favorite part of it? Was it being able to help people who maybe needed some, like, the growing food that they needed to eat? Was it being with other people, young people in your community?
I definitely think my favorite part of the whole project was just hands-on things. That's definitely my favorite work to do. I'm not the sit behind the desk type of person. But yeah, that was definitely my favorite part, was the hands-on, just shoveling every day.
So there is a role for everybody in, you know, serving in the community, whether you like to get your hands dirty or whether you like to change policy. Young people get involved. Mm-hmm. There's always room to make that positive change. Yes. So thank you so much for being here, Shoni. Thank you, Brandon. And thank you for tuning in this week for LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV. We hope you'll tune in again next week.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Volunteering at Rogers TV was a huge part of my career path. It was the opportunities that I got doing color commentary for Woodstock Navy Vets Hockey or ENG shoots for First Local and Plugged In that led to the opportunity